fight's exactly what I was expecting. But you got to get out and let punches go. To make money, you would have to let punches go.
Emanuel Steward built the greatest boxing dynasty in sports history at his legendary Kronk Gym in Detroit. The master trainer created over 40 world champions and transformed unknown street kids into millionaire superstars. But success came with painful betrayals that broke his heart. This isn't about ring wars or championship disputes. We're exposing the fighters who turned their backs on the man who gave them everything. Students who abandoned their teacher for money and fame. Champions who forgot where they came from once they reached the top. The Steward treated his boxers like family members. He fed them, housed them, and believed in them when nobody else would. The Kronk Gym became a sanctuary for lost souls seeking direction and purpose. But some fighters repaid his kindness with devastating disloyalty. These betrayals cut deeper than any knockout punch Steward ever witnessed. Watching his surrogate sons choose greed over gratitude destroyed him emotionally. The boxing business showed its ugliest side when promoters and managers poisoned relationships he had spent years building. We're counting down 6 fighters who wounded Emanuel Steward's soul. These men proved that loyalty means nothing when big money enters the picture. The #1 revelation will shock you about boxing's most devastating family breakdown. 6. Mike McCallum. Starting our list at number 6 is Mike McCallum, the Jamaican warrior whose contract battle with Steward revealed the brutal business side of professional boxing. McCallum spent his early years developing into a world-class fighter under Steward's guidance at Kronk Gym, learning the aggressive Detroit style that would make him famous. The relationship soured when McCallum began questioning Steward's financial arrangements and training percentages. As McCallum's earning potential increased, outside advisors convinced him that Steward was taking too large a cut of his purses without providing proportional value in return. Contract negotiations turned nasty when McCallum's legal team demanded reduced payments to Steward and greater control over fight selections. Steward felt blindsided by these demands from someone he had nurtured from obscurity into championship contention. The gym atmosphere became tense as other fighters watched the dispute unfold. McCallum's departure from Kronk shocked the boxing community because few fighters had ever walked away from Steward's proven system voluntarily. The split became public when McCallum started achieving success with different trainers, which Steward interpreted as a personal insult to his methods and reputation. Steward privately expressed disappointment that McCallum had chosen financial considerations over their established partnership. The trainer felt that McCallum's ingratitude set a dangerous precedent for other Kronk fighters who might consider similar departures for purely monetary reasons. The broken relationship represented Steward's first major lesson about boxing's capacity for destroying genuine friendships through money disputes and legal complications that poisoned years of mutual respect.
Number 5. Thomas the Hitman.
I realized there's somebody very special in my life.
A tall, skinny teenager walked into Detroit's Kronk Gym. His name, Thomas Hearns. He was shy, awkward, and quiet, but Emanuel Steward saw something no one else did: potential. He transformed that young boy into a terrifying puncher. The Hitman became one of the most feared welterweights in boxing history. Together, they conquered the world. Titles, fame, and glory. But fame changes everything. As Hearns grew famous, new people began whispering in his ear: promoters, managers, advisors. Soon, the relationship that began as father and son started to turn cold. Emanuel once said, "Tommy was like my child, but fame took him away from me." Their bond was tested when Hearns made decisions without consulting him. Fights were accepted, negotiations made, and Steward felt left out. To him, loyalty meant everything. After Hearns lost to Sugar Ray Leonard in 1981, Steward took the blame, but deep down, he was angry. Angry that Tommy stopped listening. He said in an interview, "When you stop hearing the man who built you, you start losing the man inside you." Years later, they made peace, but the scars never faded. Steward didn't hate Hearns the man. He hated losing the connection with the fighter he called his own blood.
James Toney, the supremely gifted middleweight whose lazy attitude and party lifestyle made Steward question everything he believed about developing championship material. Toney possessed natural boxing instincts that amazed everyone at Kronk Gym, but his work ethic was absolutely terrible from day one. Steward invested countless hours trying to harness Toney's raw talent through disciplined training routines and structured preparation schedules. However, Toney consistently showed up late for sessions, skipped conditioning work, and treated the gym like a social club rather than a professional workplace. The situation became embarrassing when Toney would arrive at Kronk still intoxicated from previous night's partying activities. Other fighters began questioning Steward's standards and wondering why special treatment was given to someone who clearly disrespected the gym's established rules and traditions. Steward's frustration peaked during sparring sessions when Toney would coast through rounds without serious effort. The trainer knew Toney could dominate opponents with proper preparation, but watched helplessly as natural gifts were wasted through laziness and poor lifestyle choices outside the gym. Training camp situations became disasters as Toney ignored dietary guidelines, missed scheduled workouts, and argued with Steward about tactical adjustments. The fighter's arrogance convinced him that talent alone would overcome any preparation deficiencies, which directly contradicted Kronk's philosophy about hard work creating champions. Steward eventually realized that Toney's attitude was poisoning the gym environment for dedicated fighters who followed instructions and respected the training process. The trainer felt personally insulted by Toney's behavior and began limiting their interactions to preserve Kronk's reputation for producing disciplined warriors. Julio Cesar Chavez. At number 3 is Julio Cesar Chavez, the Mexican superstar whose dismissive attitude toward American boxing culture infuriated Steward and represented everything wrong with regional prejudice in the sport. Chavez publicly declared that Mexican trainers were superior to their American counterparts, specifically targeting Detroit's boxing establishment. Steward took these comments as a direct assault on his life's work and the accomplishments of Kronk Gym. The trainer had spent decades proving that Detroit could produce world-class champions, and Chavez's statements undermined the respect Steward had earned through 40 championship victories. The Mexican legend continued making inflammatory remarks about American boxing knowledge during television interviews and press conferences. Chavez suggested that Detroit trainers relied on outdated methods while Mexican coaches understood modern fighting techniques better than anyone in the United States. These cultural attacks became personal when Chavez started naming Steward specifically in his criticisms of American boxing. The comments spread throughout the boxing community and forced Steward to defend his methods and reputation against someone who had never worked with him directly. Promotional warfare escalated when Chavez's team began recruiting American fighters by promising superior training in Mexico. Steward watched potential students choose Mexican camps over Kronk based purely on Chavez's influence and public statements about trainer superiority. The situation represented broader tensions between regional boxing cultures, but Steward felt singled out for disrespect. The trainer believed Chavez was using anti-American sentiment to advance his own career while damaging the reputation of Detroit boxing institutions that had contributed significantly to the sport's development and international success. 2. Don King. Number 2 is Don King, the notorious promoter who systematically destroyed Steward's relationships with his best fighters through manipulation and financial scheming. King represented everything evil about boxing business practices and targeted Kronk Gym champions for recruitment through underhanded tactics. King's approach involved convincing fighters that Steward was holding them back financially and professionally. The promoter would whisper promises of bigger purses and better opportunities while secretly working to undermine the trust between trainer and student that had taken years to build. The promoter's manipulation tactics included spreading rumors about Steward's business dealings and suggesting that other trainers could provide better career guidance. King exploited any minor disagreements between Steward and his fighters. Financial schemes became King's primary weapon against Steward's influence over championship fighters. The promoter would offer lucrative contracts that required fighters to abandon their current training arrangements in favor of King's hand-picked cornermen and advisors. Steward watched helplessly as King systematically stole his most talented students through promises that rarely materialized into actual benefits. The promoter's political connections and industry influence made it nearly impossible for Steward to compete against his promotional machine and financial resources.
Number 1. Lennox Lewis. When Emanuel Steward joined Lennox Lewis's corner in 1995, the heavyweight division was changing fast. Lewis was talented but inconsistent. He needed discipline, and Steward knew exactly how to bring it. He reprogrammed Lewis, teaching him patience, timing, and ring IQ. Soon, Lewis became the most complete heavyweight of his generation. They built a bond built on respect, but also on confrontation. Lennox was proud, intelligent, and confident, sometimes too confident, and when confidence crosses the line, it becomes arrogance, something Steward despised. Before the shocking knockout by Hasim Rahman in 2001, Steward warned him, "You're not focused, you're not listening." Lewis brushed it off, and when Rahman's right hand landed, Steward's face told the story. He wasn't just disappointed, he was angry. Later he said, Lennox was a champion, but he needed to be reminded that boxing humbles everyone. The two argued after the fight. Lewis blamed tactics, Steward blamed preparation. But like a true master and student, they learned from it. In the rematch, Lewis destroyed Rahman, and Steward's teachings were proven right. That's why he loved Lennox, and also why he sometimes hated him. Not out of bitterness, but out of frustration that his pupil wanted to think he knew more than the master.
In a sport built on blood and glory, Emanuel Steward stood for something pure. He believed boxing wasn't just about fists, it was about soul. But even a man of peace can feel hate. Not the hate of destruction, but the hate born of disappointment, betrayal, and love unreturned. He hated when fighters ignored discipline. He hated when pride replaced humility. He hated when talent went to waste. Yet through it all, he never stopped believing in boxing. Because every man he clashed with, every fighter he hated, taught him something about the human spirit. Each one reflected a truth Emanuel Steward lived by. The ring reveals who you really are. And maybe that's why, even in anger, Steward stayed loyal to the game. Because he didn't truly hate these men. He hated what the world of boxing did to them. And that's what made him the last great teacher of the sweet science.